profession of intelligence. Because the question is not only what you say, but also how you say it and what you don't say. One of the major issues that arise from this report is, okay, you are saying that the Iranians had a project, a nuclearization project, a nuclearization project, a weaponization project for 15 years, from the end of the 80s until 2003. One would ask, how far had the Iranians gone in those 15 years? How many obstacles that they still have in this? And by saying that if they have enough fissile material, they can have a bomb within a very short period of time, you actually allude to the idea that they actually covered already a very long way in this context. So why don't you say so? I mean, this is a question. The first thing in intelligence is to not be asked the questions. And this question is not asked and is not answered as well. And you can learn about it from adding one and one and one and one, and you get to 4. Secondly, this is, in my mind, and I think also in the American mind, this is a totally wrong approach to make this differentiation between the military part and the civilian part. It's all one program. Part of it can be justified by civilian needs, so they do it through civilian cover. Part of it cannot be justified by civilian needs. Well, you cannot explain why you develop a weapon. So they couldn't do it under civilian cover. But it's all part of the same program. And the part of the program that is designated to develop the fissile material is going on. So something happened in 2005 when they decided to give up the halting.
2 or 3. To give up the holding,
Yeah.
Voluntarily.
Between 2003 and 2005, they refrained from any activity. They were under the impression of what General Farkash described as the intimidation created by the American preemptive policy. And this was the main tool with which the Europeans forced them to make a deal and to postpone the conversion and the enrichment. But when they realized in 2005 that actually there's nothing behind it, and there's no threat, they decided to take the risk and start conversion. And thereafter, enrichment. And the fact is that right now they move forward with conversion. They already have, through the conversion, they already have enough UF6 for more than 10 bombs. And they move on with the
Enough gas.
Enough gas.
Enough gas.
UF6. So, and they're making progress on the enrichment. There's a debate here in the report on where exactly they are on the enrichment R&D. They claim that maybe they have not yet crossed the point where they can really do it in a robust way and don't worry about failure. But there's no doubt that they've spent almost 2 years now. Actually, in 8 days it's going to be exactly 2 years. 9th of January 2006 is when they started. So it's going to be 2 years they're working at that, day in, day out. They are not far away. By the NIE judgment about their technical capabilities. This is the last paragraph F, as General Farkash mentioned. So they're not far away. So we're not far away from the point where they're going to have the ability to produce in a robust manner the enriched uranium that they need in order to have a bomb. And then, bearing in mind everything that was said about the repercussions of this report, they would be able to resume the activities and the weaponization, whatever is still needed, and finish without being worried about a new military move. That is the only thing that can really stop them right now. So I fully agree with everything that Farkash said under terrible repercussions, the very poor work the American intelligence has done.
I have to say, I don't know what happened during the last 2 years, but I want to add to your open remarks a personal story. Cooper was involved very strong. From approximately from 2002, 2003, we got very strong information that the Syrians are producing 220 millimeter and 302 millimeter rockets. And they deliver these rockets to Hezbollah. Very strong hard evidence, at least that these rockets are arriving to Beirut at least. In 2-3 years we prepared information, hundreds of papers to convince our friends overseas that these rockets are delivered to Hezbollah. I never got a message from them that they accept with our assessment. I don't know what happened from January 2006 till July 2007.
The war was the answer to the American hesitations.
And Afula and Haifa, it was the hard evidence about these rockets.
I just want to come in with a sort of opening question about this. By the way, the NIE is a product of a number of United States intelligence agencies. And there are agencies that dissented from specific paragraphs in the report. So I think what we have here is the product of a committee and drafters. And I'm sure there are people across the American intelligence agencies and in European intelligence agencies who have problems with the committee report. Especially if the committee...
The Brits were very clear about their doubts.
Yes, that was really reported in the Daily Telegraph. So I just want to stress that point that it could be also the product. Also, when you put in the first sentence, we judge with high confidence that in the fall of 2003, Tehran halted its nuclear weapons program. You are, let's say, the headline writer in any of the major newspapers in the West. That's the headline. No more nukes in Tehran. Naturally, that's the headline, and people don't read the rest of the report. The rest of the report is full of all kinds of information that really contradicts the general trend in the first sentence. So I just want to say that because it's not like we have a big argument with the American intelligence agencies, but with this product, the way it was done by committee, it creates a lot of misunderstandings that got a lot of reportage, which had political effects, which you described. Now I'll go to my question. There's an interesting bullet, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Bullet 5 in Key Judgment A. Second sentence. Our assessment of the program probably was halted primarily in response to international pressure. Suggests Iran may be more vulnerable to influence on the issue than we judged previously. Now this was a great sentence for those who want to promote sanctions on Iran, because it shows that sanctions work. However, John Bolton, who recently retired as American ambassador to the UN, but before that was responsible in the State Department for arms control issues, wrote an op-ed in the Washington Post, in which he said, well, wait a minute, I had responsibility for that in the State Department, and I don't remember in 2003 that we undertook any sanctions, special sanctions, on Iran that might have forced their hand. I just don't recall what this could be talking about. Now, I'm not saying we should not use sanctions on Iran, but maybe the reason why the halt, however long it lasted, again, the report admits that they only have medium confidence, moderate confidence, that they know that the halt continued after 2003. Maybe the reason isn't necessarily connected to international pressure. Now, one possibility, and this gets into the American domestic debate on the Iraq War, is that the impact of the Iraq War caused rogue states in the region to go, we better be careful. But if the program is a secret program, then I'm not sure halting is going to be the necessarily proper automatic response that you would take. Which leads me to your statement about August 2002. You said, and maybe you just amplify on this. This is the heart of my question. You said in August 2002, the Iranians became aware that the United States, the European Union, well, the European Union countries, and other Western governments were aware of their program. Is that correct? I didn't take notes, so I understood.
Yeah.
So perhaps the halt in 2003 doesn't come because of sanctions, doesn't come because of the Iraq War. It comes because they said, we've been penetrated. Somebody knows what's going on. We have got to halt the program and reassemble in a different way so we don't get caught. Could you comment whether I'm overreading into your statements or into the statement of the NIE? And if that's the case, the chances of them starting the program again once they found a new secret facility seems reasonably decent.
I don't have hard evidence about what was the real reason that they halted the nuclear program.
The weaponization program.
The weaponization. No, they halted everything.
Halted everything.
Not the surface-to-surface missiles.
Right.
Everything else they halted.
Enrichment?
Enrichment.
Yeah, they halted till January 2006. January 2005.
So
They halted everything. They halted everything. Of course, a lot of things they changed, they put undercover. For example, Lavizan, it's a very famous case. I will say through the opposition, the inspectors in Vilna asked to visit Lavizan site. It's approximately 30 kilometers close to Tehran. This was a site that, upon the opposition in Iran, dealt with the weaponization group. And they asked to visit her. And they asked to visit her from September, October 2003, and finally they visited her in January 2004. We took pictures from Lavizan in October 2003 and in March 2004. And in March 2004, Lavizan disappeared completely. They have a site
Like the site in Syria.
like the site in Syria.
The satellite pictures look exactly the same.
שם עוד לא בנו מגרש כדורגל. לביזן בנו מגרש כדורגל.
Okay, so what do we conclude from that?
That upon my conclusion, something happened. They understood that the plan is known, and then they decided to reorganize. In our point of view, my point of view, they divided the plan between the nuclear. It became under the responsibility of the Minister of Defense, in the civilian under the responsibility of the Iranian. And when, in my point of view, maybe they didn't stop the weaponization group work, but even though I don't have, and they don't have any hard evidence that they stopped this, in when they renewed in January 2005 the enrichment, that they didn't renew also the work of the weaponry group.
Which is a real possibility.
Of course, in my point of view, and I have to say that during 2005 I was in charge, and Cooper was till June 2006. I didn't see any hard evidence that the people in the MOD, the Iranian MOD, stopped to deal with the weaponry group or with things that are connected.
Just to close, Defense Minister Barak has said on the record that we agree with the cessation in 2003, and we think it was resumed. The whole program was resumed.
That issue, by the way, even in the NIE, there are two groups that said that they dissent on the issue of whether it was resumed.
So let's let the please.
Thanks, Steve. I don't want you to misconstrue this question, but there is this public report. There is a 140-page classified report given only to allies, and there's a third version kept inside the American government. That's my understanding. Without doubting anything, have any of you read any of the classified versions? And the reason I ask this, though I suspect they're not very different, I certainly haven't read them. People said that the new judgment was based on new information, that the Americans got new information, which caused them to look at their assessment. And one wondered whether this general who disappeared and defected and maybe turned up in Turkey, maybe he was part of the new information. I don't really know. But what I'd like to ask you is Askari, whether I'm just speculating. I have no idea.
I can say that Askari is not connected with the nuclear military plan.
Fine.
That's it.
Fine. But can you tell
so
me?
if he didn't know, I believe him that he didn't.
No. I mean, it was just something that I wondered about because it seemed the sort of timing seemed very clean. But do you have any notion of what this new information was and why it led them to believe that this weaponization program had not been resumed with moderate confidence?
I met 2 weeks ago with a person that was parallel to me during 2006, 5, and he knew
The American side.
in the American side. And he asked the same question, and he told me he didn't know about something very, very new to have hard evidence. Maybe there is, he mentioned the last months. But I have to say,
it kept being delayed, right? It was supposed to come out in October, and then it got delayed, and even your own embassy kept saying it's being delayed.
The statement is very clear. So you can say the statement differently if you have any other information. During September, October 2002, I don't want to enter in the details. We asked our partners in US 3 questions about Iraq. Because we got the impression, and maybe the knowledge, that they have hard evidence about the connection of Abu Musab Zarqawi and Saddam Hussein. And I told my friends, if you have hard evidence about this, we don't have. Please let us know. Number 2, about the nuclear military plan, the Iraqi nuclear military. We told them we don't know anything. And more than this, it was the wrong information that they mentioned, and we told them we have hard evidence that this is wrong. I'm sorry, I cannot enter in the details. As you have a problem with your sources, so I have the same problem.
We have problems with our friends.
And number 3 is related to the chemical. We know that they have only
Residual
capability. That means 35 bombs, 10 chemical and 25 biological. These are the numbers. So please, if you have any other information, because this is crucial for us, let us know. We didn't get any information to say yes or no. And what I try to say to our partners, I'm sorry, is that I got the feeling, they told me they have the feeling that we are trying to push them to attack Iran. Iran. And because of that, we are saying what we are saying.
About Iraq.
About Iraq, yes. It was 4 months before March 2003.
Let me just say one thing about your question, Steve. I think that it's very important to say that we don't doubt that there is some basis for this assessment about 2003. That's, I'm sure that they say it very clearly and clear-cut, and probably they based it based on something very strong. Even if you don't know what it is, it's probably something very strong.
The British said it was wrong.
About 2003. Not about what if they renewed or they not renewed.
But the question is, in 2003 they stopped everything. In 2005 they resumed some of the things.
We know that they resumed some of the things.
We know that they resumed some of the things.
The fact that we don't know what everything does not mean that they didn't resume everything.
And one thing is clear from the way they phrase it, is that they don't have the same kind of strong information about the time that elapsed since 2003 until today. They have very strong information about what happened in 2003. Not as good about what happened later on. That there is a dispute even inside the paper.
I want to add to that.
And we exchange view some words in Hebrew. It's more than that. If you look at the logic of the other side, let's assume that they stopped the military project in 2003. What is the logic to continue both the enrichment and the missile program, to invest a lot of money on that if you don't have what is crucial for the continuation of having both in the middle, the weaponization of the material?
In this project,
Something logic is missing from the process which was described in the report.
the surface-to-surface missile second step is not against Israel.
Maybe they know how to put it on into a warhead already.
So they,
This is what the professor said. They didn't say any word about what did they achieve since the beginning of the process.
They are saying in paragraph that they have all the knowledge technically.
Yes, not the knowledge. I'm talking about what was achieved practically on the ground. They have something or they don't have something. They don't say a word about it, because if it is 1 meter from having it, it doesn't matter if they stop it or not.
Paragraph H is saying very clear. We assess that Iran has the scientific, technical, and industrial capacity to produce nuclear weapons if it decides to do so.
That's 2013 they're talking about.
No.
can even be in 2000.
I'll wait for it.
Okay, please.
Thank you.
Identify yourself for history.
All right. Gideon Litchfield from The Economist. You said, Farkash, that the NIE weakens the case or weakens the pressure for tougher international sanctions. And I want to challenge that conclusion because, first of all, as you pointed out, I think it was you that pointed out that the report emphasizes that it looks as if international pressure was working. And second, I want to challenge the assumption that the Bush administration, that the military option really is on the table or was on the table for the Bush administration. I want to suggest that it ceased to be on the table before this came out, it ceased to be on the table when Rumsfeld left his job. And that since then, it's been more of a political football in the US. In other words, it's important for the administration to keep the option on the table politically because it puts the Democrats in a difficult position against the Republicans for the election. But there's no real intention of pursuing it.
So this was my assessment till Beijing pact vis-a-vis North Korea. This was my assessment. No intention for US to use the military sanction against Iran. What happened after? First of all, this was crucial. I don't know if it will be a real success and North Korea will stop the nuclear military plan. But this was a crucial development. After that, suddenly, we saw a change of the opinions even in the state. And this was the first time that theoretically I mentioned I changed my opinion. Maybe President Bush till June 2008, because this development, that means pressure can be very effective. Because of that, it means he will continue, maybe even he will achieve the legitimacy needed by UN to do something, and if nothing will stop the Iranian, no later than May, June 2008, military attack only from the air, it's enough. I have to say, there is the flexibility to achieve a very important delay for 2, 3, 4 years by attacking what we know, not what we don't know. And I have to say, I changed between Beijing and this report. This was my assessment. Something is going to happen. Suddenly, in January this year, we saw 3 carriers in the Persian Gulf. It never happened in the past. So the question was, will Bush do what he really believed that must be done? And this was the question that it was for me very difficult to give an answer, because the internal situation in US. And now I change my mind. Now I agree with you. So this is my answer. It's everything is an assessment. But I have to say, I spoke with people. I was during a meeting in Washington, D.C., and I got a feeling that there is a change.
Sorry, you're saying that
EU3 in Russia, in China, in US understood that the Iranians are pressured, that even the mullahs, the ideology is less important than the pragmatism of ruling. This is crucial. I have to say, I cannot say this vis-à-vis Ismail Haniyeh or Khaled Mashal, unfortunately. But the importance of the rule is, for them, is crucial than the ideology. And we saw between 2003 2004 till January 2005 that they stopped the enrichment voluntarily.
Yes, but what you are right that it might not change some areas, but in some areas it's changed the situation. For example, the Russians completed the transfer of the uranium to Bushehr after the report of the Americans, and I'm not sure that it could be happening so easily before the report. You could see that immediately after that an agreement was signed between China and Iran regarding energy, which I'm not sure could be done so easily before the report. And I'm not talking about the political area in which you can see the Egyptians running to Tehran and the relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran. This is completely and very clearly result of the report, which in a way made the Iranians stronger in the Middle East than before. So even if you are right that some governments, like the French and the Brits and maybe the Americans, understand that although the report is not exactly connected to the process of making pressure on Iran, in other areas it was clear that now Iran is stronger. And this is, I think, is as important as what you just hinted. At the end of the day, I believe that it will be an obstacle even for those governments who think about put pressure on Iran. It will be used by others that don't like this idea. They will use the report saying, what do you want from the Iranians? They are in a civilian area in which maybe we don't like it, but it's their right to have it. And you will hear it more and more because of the report. So the report, I don't know what was the intention of those who wrote the report, but the results are very clear, at least if you look at it from the Russian, Chinese, and the Middle East point of view. Yes, please.
Okay. I'm Joel Greenberg from Chicago Tribune. You were in in your role in 2003